frightening things are those we do not understand and cannot control. And in this vast universe, the most incomprehensible and uncontrollable thing is life itself. Why has life only been found on Earth? Why have we not found any signs of life elsewhere so far? Where are the aliens? Do they know about Earth and visit for peace? These questions have puzzled scientists for hundreds of years without answers. Yet many hypotheses, even paradoxes, have been proposed to explain the mysteries of the universe. The most famous is the Fermi Paradox. Looking at the blue planet in the solar system, we must admit we are lucky. Earth is in a perfect position relative to the central star. In this case, the Sun. This position is not too close, so Earth is not burnt like Mercury, and not too far to freeze our planet like Uranus. This perfect position is called the habitable zone, meaning the area suitable for life to develop. In this zone, the climate across the planet is neither too hot nor too cold. Although we have hot, dry deserts, such as Death Valley in California, which can record temperatures above 55 degrees Celsius, or the town of Oynakin in Siberia, Russia, which can get as cold as -40 degrees Celsius. However, these temperatures are considered much less extreme than those on distant planets in the solar system. That is, they are still sufficient for water to exist in liquid form, cells to develop, and life to thrive. However, Earth is not the only planet with a favorable position in the galaxy. According to statistics, every solar system has at least one such planet. For example, Earth is the only planet in the habitable zone of our solar system. The exoplanet Proxima Centauri b, located about 4.2 light-years from Earth in the constellation Cephalus, is considered the closest known exoplanet orbiting in the habitable zone of its star. Based on hypotheses for aliens to exist, they would also need to live in these perfect zones. From here, we only need to count the number of solar systems with habitable zones to find planets capable of hosting life. According to NASA estimates, in this galaxy alone, there are 250 billion stars. And looking out into the universe, there are over 100 billion other galaxies. That means, if all galaxies are the same size, the observable universe contains over 70 sextillion stars. If only 0.01% of those stars host life, theoretically, there are too many places for life to flourish. In 2013, astronomers estimated at least about 6 billion Earth-like planets in our galaxy. Yet, the extraterrestrial life we have found since the beginning of space exploration remains precisely zero. This is where the Fermi Paradox is mentioned, as an explanation for all that puzzling disappearance of life. This paradox is named after physicist Enrico Fermi, who described the clear contradiction between the high probability of alien life existence and the lack of evidence to confirm it. According to him, what is even more frightening is whether we are truly alone in this vast universe, or simply because we haven't been able to see them yet. To explain this paradox, Fermi proposed a hypothesis about the existence of aliens, called the Great Filter, or the Great Selection Process. Accordingly, our universe has existed for nearly 14 billion years, and no one disputes its vastness. Yet, with all that time, the universe seems empty, with no signs of advanced civilizations. From this, scientists think that something is preventing us humans, or other civilizations that may have existed, from developing to communicate with higher civilizations. This is an event, a selection to see if that species is capable of developing further or not. No one knows what will happen if we truly overcome that challenge, but if not, that civilization will be annihilated. This is natural selection, the turning point that determines the development of a civilization, or even the survival of that civilization. However, the Great Filter hypothesis is not limited to that. Scientific groups divide the Great Filter into two scenarios. One is that this selection process has already occurred, and two is that it still awaits us in the future. Each scenario leads to different assumptions about the future of humanity. In the first case, when this selection process has already occurred, humans might be the only intelligent beings left. In other places with life, a hypothesis explains that during the development of living organisms, something happened that forced other species to surrender. It could be a massive pandemic that wiped out all life. It could be a giant asteroid, like what happened to the dinosaurs. No matter what has happened, we know that humanity has existed, and that makes us pioneers. The first in the universe capable of exploring the infinite world outside. But there is also the second case where the great filter has not yet appeared. This hypothesis is even more widely believed, because it explains why we haven't found any extraterrestrial civilizations. This time, the great filter could be an event that we perhaps haven't reached yet. Therefore, we still don't have the passport to reach for the stars and contact advanced civilizations. One reason we believe this is that supernatural phenomena sometimes appear in life, and are thought to be when extraterrestrial civilizations slip up, allowing us to accidentally see them even if just momentarily. A representative of the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute wrote in the Fermi Paradox, explaining as follows: Fermi understood that any civilization with modest rocket technology and no small expansion motivation could quickly occupy the entire galaxy. Within a few tens of millions of years, every star system could be under the control of that empire. Tens of millions of years sounds long, but in fact it's quite short compared to the age of the galaxy. About 1,000 times shorter. Helen Simon, a British astrobiologist, even proposed a more frightening hypothesis that aliens could be among us without anyone knowing. Helen reasoned, whether they are like you and me, made of carbon and nitrogen? Probably not. They might be here right now and we simply don't see them, but only sense them. Such life would exist in a new concept called the shadow biosphere. Helen emphasized, this is not ghosts, but undiscovered creatures, possibly with different biochemical structures. This means we cannot study and search for aliens in the conventional way. In other words, we don't see them because this exceeds human understanding. In 2015, scientists analyzing data from the Hubble and Kepler space telescopes concluded that only 8% of all potentially habitable worlds existed in the surrounding universe, when Earth formed about 4.5 billion years ago. Therefore, extraterrestrial civilizations, if they exist, would be very far away. Another hypothesis suggests that life is too fragile to last long on a planet, and we simply aren't at the same stage as them. A 2016 study explained that the early stage in rocky planet formation history could be very favorable for life, typically appearing from about 500 million years or longer after the planet cooled down. Our Earth's history seems to support that conclusion by showing life appeared about 4.1 billion years ago. But those favorable periods might not last long, due to issues like the greenhouse effect or other climate changes. Researcher Aditya Chopra wrote in a study later published in the journal Astrobiology that life might be very rare in the universe, not because it's hard to start, but because habitats don't allow it to survive beyond the first billion years. It's like trying to ride a buffalo, most life falls off. Some thinkers suggest that civilizations might tend to self-destruct soon after achieving technological capability. Again, Earth's history has provided evidence and could explain this hypothesis. In fact, humanity came alarmingly close to nuclear war during the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. Additionally, we might also be in the process of destroying ourselves and most other life on the planet through climate change, global warming, and the greenhouse effect. On the other hand, one of the survival questions raised in the search for extraterrestrial life is whether human civilization could survive if aliens exist. famous physicist Stephen Hawking once warned that we should be cautious when responding to signals from aliens, as they might turn Earth into a colony to extract materials for spacecraft construction. He took Gliese 832c, an exoplanet that might have life, only 16 light-years from Earth, as an example. If extraterrestrial life evolved on Gliese 832c, one day we might receive signals from such a planet. But we should be cautious in responding. Encountering an advanced civilization is like Native Americans meeting explorer Columbus in the 16th century. That encounter did not yield good results. We don't know much about aliens, but we understand humanity. If we look back at history, the meeting between humans and less intelligent creatures often becomes a disaster from their perspective. The encounter between high-tech and primitive civilizations also often brings bad outcomes for the less advanced side. They might have developed billions of years ahead of us. If that's true, it would be very powerful and might regard us as no different from bacteria. According to the famous astronomer Carl Sagan, the discovery of evidence of another species in the universe would have a huge impact on humanity. It specifically affects many scientific fields and also anthropocentrism. Carl Sagan once mentioned, signals of extraterrestrial life would be a great motivation for space science, both in research and space settlement projects. However, this hypothesis was proposed by Sagan last century and didn't receive much attention. But now, with science having advanced tremendously, researchers are excited to explore and analyze, hoping to discover the universe to meet these neighbors. If this becomes reality, about half of current scientific fields will become seriously distorted. However, some opposing opinions argue that humanity should fortify, find ways to hide, instead of actively seeking potential dangers from outer space. Some even say that humanity needs weapons to counter the threat from aliens. So, how would discovering intelligent beings outside Earth affect the development of civilizations? Astronomer Sagan pointed out factors from any civilization in the universe. He believed that any civilization with an environment interacting with the universe would have the desire to understand and explore it. But there might be exceptions, because species evolved in a completely different environment. Like Venus, with the densest atmosphere in the solar system, where it's hazy, unable to see the universe, it would be less interested in things around their planet. If Sagan's hypothesis is correct, discovering extraterrestrial civilization at this moment would be wonderful. Besides impacts on the development of space science and technology, it would also provide motivation for scientists in exploring and conquering space. And even, aliens could stimulate changes in culture and politics, establishing parties or creating some new religions, or making some existing religions disappear. It's also possible that nothing would change at all. Signals from outside Earth wouldn't bring anything different when scientists or politicians hide it from the public. However, the worst-case scenario occurs, that it could lead to chaos and paranoia in society. Or more ironically, finding a civilization equivalent to humanity could become the foundation for the great filter in the Fermi Paradox. Accordingly, civilizations seek each other out and destroy each other, leading to the extinction of the entire universe. And who knows, this very thing might make scientists hesitate when wanting to aim for a further future where humanity conquers throughout the universe.